The Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation was established in 2016 to raise awareness on the lives of billions of animals reared on intensive farms around the world and how this impacts upon animal welfare, the environment and people's health. We want to highlight the action people can take to help advance farm animal welfare.
Thank you, Lorraine, for inviting me to say a few words, and thanks also for the amazing work that you do. But first, I want to reiterate that we're proud to have some of the highest animal welfare standards in the world, and that we're fully committed not only to protecting those standards, including in our future trade agreements, but to strengthening them wherever we can. Animal welfare is a mark of a civilized society. We already have a highly ambitious animal welfare agenda. We're committed, as you know, to bringing in new laws on animal sentience, increasing sentences for people who are cruel to animals from the current 6 months to 5 years. We're committed to banning the keeping of primates as pets, cracking down on the illegal smuggling of dogs and puppies, ending the import of hunting trophies, and of course ending the live export for slaughter and fattening of animals, a campaign that this organisation in many respects has been leading. And on that issue, we'll be launching the obligatory public consultation before the end of this year. Now, we're considering what government can do in relation to a very wide range of animal welfare issues, from the import of fur to the use of glue traps and the possible introduction of closed seasons for some of our own precious wildlife like hares, from the regulatory system governing our zoos to advertising cruel animal entertainment overseas. I've met the organisers of the Tux Law campaign, who make a really compelling case, and we're looking now at what we can do there as well to prevent either accidental or malicious euthanasia of much-loved pets. We're looking at the future use of cages for all laying hens, and on that note, I really strongly welcome the commitment from our main retailers to stop retailing eggs from colony cages by 2025. We have committed to a serious examination of the role of labelling in promoting high welfare right across the UK market, and we'll consult on that as well at the end of the transition period. And the government's been clear that we want to end farrowing crates for sows as well. And finally, and because what happens to the natural world has direct impacts on individual animals, as we saw in Australia, as well as the species they belong to, we're significantly increasing our support for international conservation and biodiversity. The Prime Minister last year committed to doubling our international climate finance and to investing much of the uplift on nature-based solutions, including a new £100 million biodiverse landscapes fund, increased funding for the world-renowned Darwin Fund, and to our work tackling the grim and cruel illegal wildlife trade. We're establishing a new £500 million Blue Planet Fund to protect the marine environment from plastic, overfishing, habitat loss and so on, and our Blue Belt programme is on track to protect an area roughly the size of India around our overseas territories. We introduced one of the world's toughest bans on the sale of ivory. We're ramping up our support internationally to stop plastic pollution in the ocean. We're introducing measures to prevent big business importing commodities that have been grown on land illegally cleared of forests. And we're leading the Global Ocean Alliance of countries advocating for a new target to protect at least 30% of the world's ocean in marine protected areas by 2030. We played a big role in creating the Leaders' Pledge for Nature, a call to arms for greatly increasing global action to tackle the twin crises of climate change and biodiversity loss, and we're pressing hard for the strongest possible outcomes at both the Biodiversity COP in Kunming early next year and the Climate COP that we're hosting here in the UK. And of course there is much more to be done, but we will do it.
I warmly welcome the work of the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation campaigning for better treatment of animals in our country. We have some of the highest standards in the world, but there's further we can go. So alongside the Animal Welfare Foundation, I am campaigning for an end to live exports for slaughter or fattening. Leaving the European Union gives us a chance to crack down on this trade, and I want to see that happen. But I also want to see cages phased out for egg-laying chickens, and to improve the welfare of pigs. I think it's important that we see free farrowing systems start to replace farrowing crates. So there is a way to go to improve the welfare of farmed animals in our country, and I'm determined to see that progress made.
For many people, including many supporters of the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation, one of the great advantages of leaving the European Union was going to be that we would be able to extricate ourselves from European Union regulations that meant that we had to allow the importing into the United Kingdom of animal products that would never have been permitted in the UK. And those products, of course, undercut our own farmers' work. It was also going to be an opportunity to bring to an end once and for all the transport of live animals for slaughter, something that again we couldn't do under EU regulations. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, said that he saw this as a great opportunity to enhance animal welfare, and Michael Gove, as the Secretary of State then for DEFRA, also said that he wanted to take this chance to improve animal welfare and to make sure that we did not import products that undercut the work of our own farmers because they were cheaper and nastier. But it would be tragic, wouldn't it, if, having gone through all this, we then, because of the desire to strike trade deals with other countries, found ourselves going back to the position of allowing into the United Kingdom animal foodstuffs, products, again produced as a result of animal suffering in other countries, in a manner that we would never ever permit in Britain today. I want to see this opportunity taken to drive forward animal welfare, to ensure that we don't disadvantage our own farmers, that we do promote animal welfare, and that we bring to an end the practice of the transport of live animals for slaughter.
I'm very pleased to be speaking to you today from Westminster at this fringe meeting to consider measures that we should take to continue to improve the welfare of animals. I know that so many people feel that one of the great advantages of us leaving the European Union is that we can continue to improve animal welfare standards not only in our country but throughout the world. Scientists have proven that animals are sentient beings that suffer pain, fear and stress, as well as joy and comfort. Practices that are still being used today fail to appreciate animals' needs and their capacity to suffer, resulting in a large number of sentient animals being subject to pain. It is vital that we protect our animals by recognising animal sentience in United Kingdom law. Every year, tens of thousands of animals are exported from the United Kingdom, where they suffer long journeys for slaughter and fattening. Animals are transported in cruel and inhuman conditions, causing extreme stress, exhaustion, hunger and dehydration. Lorries containing live animals for export continue to leave Ramsgate Port for transport across Europe. This practice is totally unnecessary and should be stopped as soon as possible. Now, turning to other matters. Within the United Kingdom, pigs, hens and game birds are kept in cages that confine and restrict their movements, and this prohibits them pursuing their natural animal instincts. Currently, 50% of the 500,000 sows in the UK are kept in small metal farrowing crates where they cannot move or turn around. Pigs are highly intelligent animals, and these cages very cruelly restrict a sow's strong instinct to build a nest before giving birth to piglets. It is completely unacceptable that farm animals in the United Kingdom have to endure such dreadful conditions. So I am pleased that there is now such strength of feeling about animal welfare issues generally. With the exception of eggs, there is currently no legal requirement to label products with information on how the animals are reared. As more and more shoppers have an interest in where their food actually originates, there should be mandatory and clear labelling which allows consumers to make informed choices. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I want the United Kingdom to lead the world through our high animal welfare standards, and that means putting an end to the cruel practices of live exports, cages for egg-laying birds, and keeping sows in farrowing crates. I want to thank all of you for everything that you do to encourage us parliamentarians to fight for better standards in animal welfare.
The abhorrence of live animal exports for slaughter and fattening has gone on for far too many decades. Now we have left the European Union and the Brexit transition period comes to an end on New Year's Eve. We can end this horrendous export, and I encourage this Conservative government to add to its animal welfare credentials and do so.
I want to outline the pressing need to enshrine in UK law animal sentencing, the principle that all animals, be they domestic, farm or wild, share our capacity to feel pain, to feel pleasure, to feel fear. At present, until the end of the year, this principle is enshrined in EU law, Article 13 of the Lisbon Treaty, but this falls away at the end of the year, at the end of the implementation period, as we rightly take back control of our own laws. But just because this was a European law and a European principle, it doesn't mean that it was necessarily a bad law. In fact, it was a very useful catch-all, as I found in my time, my years of service as a Conservative MEP, campaigning on many animal welfare issues. I feel it is essential that we don't let all the other pressing issues currently facing Parliament, let this key humanitarian issue slip into the long grass to be dealt with when there is time. We have seen this year how quickly Parliament can pass fresh legislation if there is the political will to do it. That's why COR4 is joining with the RSPCA and the British Veterinary Association and over 40 other animal welfare organisations and millions of people to call on the government to enshrine animal sentencing into UK law within 12 months. Let's have a new golden thread to run throughout UK legislation to protect the millions of animals who look to us for protection. We want to see all public authorities bound by law to pay attention to animal welfare needs as sentient beings when implementing public policy, and to protect and to commit to protect them as fellow creatures deserving of respect. We've had manifesto promises, we've had private members' bills, we've had well-meaning ministerial promises of legislation as soon as possible in Parliament. What we want now is action. So let's show as Conservatives that we keep our promises. Of course we do. Let's show as Conservatives that we really mean it when we say we want the highest standards of animal welfare commitment in the world, in our country. And let's show that as decent human beings, we know it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
My name is Elise Dunweber, and I'm the chairman of the Conservative Women's Organisation for the Foreign Secretary's constituency of Esher and Walton. I'm also proud patron of the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation. All of our campaigns are so important, but right now the most crucial two for us are our campaigns to end live exports and bring an end to the use of cruel pig farrowing crates. If you haven't already had a look at what is involved when holding and transporting hundreds of live and sometimes very young animals, please do so. I think you'll be very shocked to see the immense and needless suffering that goes on. Prior to meeting their fate of slaughter, these animals are confined to highly cramped areas, standing in their own excrement, some having been removed from their mother within hours of birth, with no water, in intense heat and at times freezing conditions, for hours and hours at a time. This is all for the benefit of human food consumption, which in this day and age doesn't have to be this way. We are better than this. Please support our campaigns to stop these cruel and totally unnecessary practices. As human beings, blessed with the most wonderful planet, let's recognise these animals for the sentient beings that they are. Let's move forward together to find better ways to find a solution and resolve this situation.
Greetings, Conference. My name is Peter Hall and I am a Director of the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation. As we leave the European Union, there are going to be changes to trading arrangements, and these could be of great consequence to the farming community. We at Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation believe that farmers are at the very heart of our national identity and, of course, at efforts to protect our natural environment. And we want farmers to survive these changes and indeed thrive. Last October, we made a set of proposals to the National Food Strategy Review, and these centred on institution of a mandatory animal welfare labelling system. We propose that all products that contain animal components consumed or produced in the United Kingdom should be subject to mandatory animal welfare labelling. We believe this set of proposals would be very good for farmers because it would allow them to focus on the quality of their products rather than the cost. As we leave the European Union, we're going to come into competition with low welfare, low cost producers in the Americas, in Europe, in Asia, Australia and Africa and so on. The only way that Britain can compete is on quality and brand value, and this is where animal welfare standards have an important role. And we believe, finally, that young people and people with a view to the future are very concerned about the environment and about animal welfare, and we need to maintain our leadership on this issue. So Britain has to be at its best as we leave the European Union, and if we institute a system of mandatory animal welfare labelling, we will show that we have the world's best animal welfare standards, we will have a systemic approach to the problem, and we will show the rest of the world how it should be done. Thank you.
Why does it matter? Consumers' growing interest in how animals are treated on farms and in livestock facilities has created a strong demand for further information. Animal welfare is an increasing concern amongst the general public, who frequently look to government to take the lead in both maintaining and improving standards.
The truth is that while progress is being made, we could be doing a lot more to improve animal welfare. As we all seek a green recovery after the pandemic, which has caused utter global devastation in terms of human life and the global economy and livelihoods, we need to rethink our relationship with nature and the animals we share on our planet.
Our treatment of animals and the natural world risks new and deadly disease pandemics. We have seen mink farms rightly closed in the Netherlands after coronavirus outbreaks on the farms, making them major hotspots for the spread of the pandemic. Industrial livestock production risks further pandemics.
Cramming animals in crowded cages and stressful conditions on industrial intensive farms provides breeding grounds for more deadly viruses such as swine flu and avian flu.
Billions of farm animals are reared for food each year. In our age, we have seen the increasing spread of industrial farming. Intelligent, sentient beings are crammed into squalid cages and crates in dark sheds hidden away, unable to exhibit their natural behaviours, deprived of ever seeing the sun, the stars, feel the wind, or a blade of grass beneath their feet.
They are routinely subjected to mutilations, including beak trimming, teeth clipping, tail docking, dehorning, artificial insemination, and castration. They are all sentient beings who feel pain and suffering.
We need change now on this massive scale of suffering. Now we have left the EU, we have opportunities to advance farm animal welfare and reward farmers who adopt higher welfare systems, public money for public goods.
We must end cruel intensive cages for egg-laying birds, end pig farrowing crates, end live animal exports, end painful routine mutilations, and provide higher welfare free-range conditions.
On industrial farms, many piglets are born to mothers in farrowing crates, narrow metal cages that confine the sow so restrictively that she cannot turn around, in concrete sheds without bedding, where the stench of animal waste is overwhelming.
The crates severely restrict the sow's movements and her strong instinct to build a nest before giving birth. Farrowing crates have been banned in Sweden, Norway and Switzerland already. Germany recently announced it would phase out pig farrowing crates. There are commonly available free farrowing systems.
Millions of hens are reared in cages with little room to move and deprived of their natural exercise of foraging and running. Their nest area consists of a plastic sheet hanging down from the top of the cage to provide a more secluded area for egg laying. Hens often lose a large proportion of their feathers due to damage from the sides of the cage and pecking from other hens.
To prevent feather pecking, chicks often have part of their beaks cut off without any anaesthetic. Chicks never experience an adult role model to learn from, and most male chicks are killed immediately after hatching, some by the abhorrent practice of maceration.
Luxembourg has banned the use of enriched cages for laying hens, and Austria and Germany are phasing out enriched cages. We call for the UK to do the same. The UK banned field crates, sow stalls and fur farms years ago, and it's now time to end live animal exports for slaughter and fattening. It is unnecessary and deeply cruel to subject weeks-old calves and gentle sheep to long, stressful journeys to inhumane systems such as field crates abroad, which are banned in the UK, and to be taken for slaughter as soon as they arrive. Earlier this year, UK sheep were exported as far afield as Bulgaria and Hungary. This is appalling and unacceptable. The government has a manifesto commitment to end excessively long journeys for slaughter and fattening, and we urge for action to take place to end this misery for farm animals.
We also call for method of production and slaughter labelling to show how farm animals are reared so consumers can make an informed choice.
Where method of production labelling exists, as it does with eggs, it is popular with consumers. Labels are the only real tool that consumers have to communicate their preference for higher welfare products to producers.
Labels empower us to drive standards more effectively and to reward farmers who invest in better farm animal welfare.
We must protect UK farmers from lower welfare imports, and there must be no lowering of our current standards in the pursuit of trade deals.
We say no to to the import of chlorinated chicken and hormone-injected beef, and welcome Minister's statements that bans on chlorinated chicken and hormone-treated beef will remain in place.
We applaud the government for recent animal welfare advancements. Some proposals are on their way into legislation or are in law, such as mandatory CCTV in all slaughterhouses, a UK ban on the ivory sales trade, a ban on third-party dog sales, a ban on wild animals and circuses.
Mr. Speaker, not only will we protect animal welfare standards, but we will be able, on leaving the EU as we have, we will be able to increase our animal welfare standards. We will be able to ban treatment of farrowing sows that is currently legal in the EU. We will be able to ban the shipment of live animals, which we currently cannot ban in the UK.
The Conservative Manifesto includes commitments to increase cruelty sentencing, crack down on the illegal smuggling of dogs and puppies, bring in new laws on animal sentience, extend the ivory ban to cover other ivory-bearing species, ban trophy hunting imports, bring forward cat microchipping, ban primates as pets, and end excessively long journeys for live animal exports for slaughter and fattening. Our calls for action include our continued call for animal sentience to be enshrined in UK law, an end to trophy hunting imports, fur imports and foie gras imports, and much more. We urge for the UK to champion a global wildlife trade ban, not only to end the senseless cruelty inflicted on billions of animals caught up in this cruel system, but to protect fragile ecosystems, public health and the global environment we live in. People are speaking out to protect our natural world, our endangered species, and so they should, because we've already lost half the animals on the planet, denying future generations of ever seeing some species as a result of our own greed and inaction. Poachers slice off the faces of live rhinos to steal their horns. Militia groups use helicopters to shoot down elephants for their tusks. Factory farmers breed captive tigers to marinate their bones for wine. Future generations will condemn us if we don't take further action now to stop this despicable madness and obscene cruelty. We have a moral obligation to protect vulnerable species for future generations who will not be able to see or experience species which so many of us take for granted today. We are delighted that our Prime Minister recently announced a £220 million biodiversity fund to protect habitats and endangered animals. Boris Johnson recently tweeted, "We cannot just sit back and watch as priceless endangered species like the African elephant, the black rhino and the pangolin are wiped off the face of the earth. We are ramping up UK efforts to save the natural world. We need change and action now on this massive scale of suffering." Protesters around the world are taking a stand on the escalating climate crisis. The climate emergency is the defining issue of our times. The UK will host the COP26, a vital UN climate summit where countries must come up with strengthened commitments to cut greenhouse gas emissions. We can all contribute meaningful, significant changes to help advance animal welfare, combat climate change and protect our planet right now in our own homes by the choices we make every day with our diets. We can choose high welfare produced meat and dairy. We can choose free-range eggs and shun eggs produced from the poor animals incarcerated in the misery of cramped cages. We can support the UN objective to reduce meat consumption to help protect our planet. A report from the United Nations adds to the increasing numbers of calls from scientists in recent years that drastic changes to the world's diet are needed in a bid to stop global warming. The report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says switching to plant-based diets could both free up land and reduce carbon dioxide emissions. Sir David Attenborough recently stated that we must change to a diet that is largely plant-based, which will reduce the space we need for farming and reduce greenhouse gases. Precious ancient rainforests in the Amazon are now being cleared away for lucrative cattle pastures. Burning is commonly used to clear trees quickly. We have all watched in horror as terrible fires tear through the Amazon rainforest. Petrified wild animals flee in terror for their lives and have lost their ancient habitats just so more cattle can be produced instead. We now have to stop and take stock of what is going on around us, and each and every one of us has a responsibility and a duty to help leave our planet in a better condition for those generations that follow us.